It's hard to say. I want to say more. I'm being attacked viciously. I'm trying to stay composed. I have all the time in the world to wait this out. Unfortunately, other people are watching. And they have expectations. I'm not important, but they think that I am, so I must say something. But I don't want to play into this, you know? I'm sorry, everybody, I just don't want to play into this. I've got kind of a headache in the back of my head right now, and it always happens when I play into stuff. I used to think it was allergies, but it's really I'm just playing into stuff I shouldn't be playing into, so I'm going to pass on the opportunity to defend myself against this interrogator. Thank you. That is enough for now. Enjoy the rest of the conference. I know you want me to defend myself against these allegations, but believe you me, the person is asking these questions in bad faith. I don't want to let you down. I know you've all traveled a very long distance to come and see me speak. I can assure you I am a man of my word. I'm a man of integrity. These allegations are false. No one should be allowed to say what this woman is saying about me. It is a unique opportunity and circumstance to defend oneself against completely false allegations before a crowd such as yourself, many people who I esteem greatly. I do not know if what this woman is saying is true. I just know they're false. I don't know how to explain that. I've recently had a surgery where they opened up the top of my skull and vacuumed my brain. Yes. You may ask your question. When they vacuumed your brain, did they keep the contents. Well, it was very much like a vacuum cleaner. So there's a bag, one of the old school vacuum cleaners, except they just used the extension and the head that was like this, flat, and just, it was like they were shaving my hair, shaving my head, but really just vacuuming the top part of my cerebral cortex. And to answer your question, yes, they kept the contents. Can I ask you another question? Yes, sir. Tell me your name. My name's Clifton. Clifton. Go ahead, Clifton. So they vacuumed your brain. Yes. And they put the contents, well, the contents went into the vacuum bag, yes, sir? Yes, they did, Clifton, they did. Were you concerned that when the contents of your brain went into the vacuum bag that they were going to get all jumbled up and discombobulated or too pressurized and therefore just, I don't know. Were you concerned about that, sir? Thank you for the question, Clifton. Yes, I was concerned. They assured me that the contents of my brain would be safe. That the vacuum bag was just simply a temporary location, and they would be sorting through the contents of the vacuum bag and then arranging the contents accordingly. Yes, ma'am. When you said accordingly, can you tell us more? The contents were being sorted accordingly? Yes. Can you tell us what that means? I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. My name is Leslie. Leslie, thank you for that question. Contents of my brain were sorted accordingly. Into things that mattered and did not matter. Yes, Leslie, you don't have to raise your hand again. You can ask without raising your hand again. I would think that all the contents of your brain were important, but maybe not. Yes. Well, are they? Were they? Leslie, I don't know the answer to that question, how they were sorting important from unimportant. But they assured me that I would have a very clear understanding of which vessels contained important brain stuff and which vessels contained unimportant brain stuff, and that I could choose what I wanted to take home with me. I'm sorry, I don't understand, sir. Yes. It's difficult to understand, and I do feel like retreating from this conference and just being alone with my thoughts, but I see these forbidding figures near the doors, and I don't think I'm going anywhere anytime soon. I think I'm just stuck here talking to you about my brain. Yes. Yes, sir. Well, can you tell us what you did? I'm sorry, sir. What did I do? Yes. When you were presented with two vessels of important things and unimportant things, what'd you do? Well, I had a choice. I had to pay them for the service, and I had to pay them to take the contents home. Yes, and I'm sorry, sir, I didn't catch your name. Yes, I'd rather not disclose my name. Okay. Well, sir, I had an opportunity to pay them money to take home both vessels. But, I wasn't sure what to do. So I took them both home. Sir, do you mind if I give you a name? Oh. I would rather not. Okay. It's just hard to talk about. Everybody imposes their own meaning. Everybody imposes their own meaning on what happens when they vacuum your brain. What I've noticed is that I just tend to space out a lot. I went home, and I had two big vessels. They were like big glass jars. And I put them down on my table. And I looked at the important stuff in my brain and the unimportant stuff in my brain. And I wondered what to do. I didn't know what to do. I had lived a life where I had accumulated so many unimportant things in my brain that I knew I was compromising my efficiency It's like the computer that's got too many files, too many open applications. The random access memory, the RAM, is just not enough to deal with the constant demands, and so I got my brain vacuumed. My name is Thomas, and I got my brain vacuumed. And now I'm not clear what is important and what is not important stuff. Hello, Thomas. We're just doing our routine check. Hello. Who are you? My name is Basford. Basford. Yes. I brought my wife with me. I believe you know her. No, I don't know who she is. She was at the conference. Leslie, she asked you a couple questions. Pleased to meet you, Basford. Leslie. I'm sorry, Leslie, I don't recall our interaction. I don't recall anything from the conference. I haven't really integrated any of the information. I just know that I was being attacked. I remember that very clearly. I felt a lot of the anxiety over that. Basford, why did you come to visit me with your wife? Well, I just came to do a routine check. Were you at the conference too? I was, yes. I was sitting right next to Leslie. Basford, I fear that I might have made a grave mistake in having my brain vacuumed. While this is an experimental technology, Thomas, I can sympathize. Well, it's like too many cookies. You know? When you're running your OS and it all bogs down and you realize you have to get rid of all the cookies. There's too many cookies in my brain. But now that all the cookies are gone, Basford, I feel like I'm slower than ever, and the whole point was to vacuum my mind so I could be faster. It's like something is not right. Basford, something is not right with me. Yes. Well, you can tell. We're unsure. This is an experimental technology, so we wanted to just check in with you to see how you're doing. You're undergoing some fragmentation, it seems. Is that what it is? Fragmentation? Quite possibly, yes. Leslie? What do you think? Do you think I'm fragmented? Well, that's Well, that's why we're here. That's a tough question to answer. Do you feel like you are not yourself? I don't know. Yes. Well, we're going to be making several house visits just to check in. Oh. Okay. When do you think that I'll get my brain back? Well, Thomas, I don't think that you're going to get your brain back in the typical sense anymore because you had a lot of problems before and we cleaned out the problems. It's just that there's some complications with a separation of the good stuff from the bad stuff, as they say. So we authorize that you take both vessels home. What am I going to do with these 2 vessels? Well, the good news is we do have 2 specialists coming over shortly, and they're going to help you. They're going to help you, Thomas. I can't make heads or tails of any of this. I just seem to have lost my mind. And I'm afraid. I feel like I could just cry any moment. Well, we have 2 specialists coming over. Yes. How will I? Well, I know when they're here. They'll knock on the door, ring on the doorbell. You know, what people tend to do. Should I let them in? Yes. Of course. How will I know? Well, they will introduce themselves. But I don't know the names. Well, I haven't told you their names yet, Thomas. Well, why don't you tell me? Of course. So Russell and Cameron, they'll both be coming by to check on you. Thomas? Yes. You don't remember me asking those questions from the conference? No. How do you feel right now? Just in general. I feel anxious. I think I'm disconnected. I think whatever got vacuumed out of my brain just took me. I think I might be in those 2 vessels there on the table. Well, don't quite touch the contents of the vessels just yet. We're still doing our post-vacuum evaluation. Leslie. Yes, Thomas. Is there anything left in my brain? Well, for now, there is something there in your brain, or really, in your head, in your skull. It's not in your brain. Your brain is not there. Your brain is the good stuff and the bad stuff right there on the table. We have implanted a device that will do the job of getting you around and communicating in the essential functions. It's a device. I just feel a little weird. Yes, well, again, this is an experimental technology, Thomas, and we're gonna have some specialists come and ask you some questions and just make sure that you're okay. You two are married. Basford and I, yes. Why? Why are you married? You don't seem right for each other. Well, we've been married for 17 years, so we must be doing something right. No, I don't think so. I think I see clearly that you're not right for each other. You don't see that? Well, we're going to get going. It was nice talking to you, Thomas. No. I want you two to stay. And I want you to figure out why you're incompatible with each other so you can fix the problem. I can't tell because my brain is in two vats on the table, but I can just feel. Why was I at the conference? Well, we wanted to see how you would experience a room full of people asking you questions now that you've had the device implanted and your brain temporarily removed. I don't think I did a good job. I felt, incoherent. It's like I was at a fine pastry shop and eating the wrong pastry. Why would I be eating the wrong pastry if I went to a fine pastry shop? And that's what it was like. That kind of indescribable dissatisfaction of having to pay so much for a pastry that's supposed to be so good, but it wasn't good. It sucked. That's what it was like. A kind of dissatisfaction that didn't make sense, but was so right. One of these two specialists coming. I think you should stay when they get here. Well, they are actually due to arrive any minute now. So, me and Leslie can stay if you want, and maybe Russell and the other guy. What'd you say, Cameron? Yes, Russell and Cameron. Maybe they can help. It's possible, yes. My mind is not working properly. This is an experimental technology. It's experimental. brain is on the table. I don't feel like myself. How did... If I talk to friends, will friends recognize me? Hello, Thomas. Are you my friend? I would not say that we are friends, we're just meeting for the first time. I'm Russell, this is my assistant. Cameron. We're just here to answer your questions. Check in with you. Russell? Yes, that's me. Do I have any friends? Do you have friends? I don't think my friends will know who I am. I was having a very hard time and I volunteered for an experimental technology, and now I'm not so sure I did the right thing. I was having such a difficult time. I know that. Don't remember the details of that. But I just needed a break. And now I don't understand why. It just feels glitchy. I feel glitchy. What are you gonna do with my brain? Well, so Cameron here is just gonna do a scan. I guess that's the best word. A scan, diagnosis, to see if there's anything, any problems with the content. See if all the bad stuff is truly bad and whether we should get rid of it or recycle it, and if there's any contaminants in the good vessel. Is there any chance that good stuff got in with the bad stuff? Or is that pretty solid that they're separate? Well, they have a different density, the good stuff and the bad stuff of the brain, and so we put all of it in a cyclotron and it just spins until the different densities separate. But that doesn't mean it's 100% accurate. We want what's best for you. So, this service is to go ahead and just separate the wheat from the chaff, as it were. And you're going to have an opportunity to put the good stuff back in your brain without any of the bad stuff. I don't really have much of a memory for the bad stuff. I don't really understand what is in those vessels. Well, those vessels are actually opaque for a reason. Are you Cameron? Yes. Cameron? Yes. Cameron sounds like camera. It does. Yes, it does. Do you use a camera, Cameron? Well, it's more like a spectrometer, but yes, I suppose you could call it a camera in its own way, in that it's taking pictures of the spectrum. The light density, the wavelengths of the stuff in each of the two vessels. So, sure, I use a camera. You have a question? Yes? It's for Russell. Russell. Yes, Thomas. Yes. Go ahead, Thomas. I'm having a hard time formulating my question. Does anybody ever ask to get the bad stuff back? Not typically, no. When you took my brain out of my skull, you separated the good stuff from the bad stuff. You put a device in my mind and in my head. Yes. But how can I still think? Russell. Well, the device facilitates the thinking process. So the device is actually connected to the electromagnetic wavelength being emitted from the two vessels. So the content of the two vessels has different frequencies coming toward, while you, but the rest of the room as well, is just everywhere, and your device picks up on it and translates it. Does that mean that the bad stuff is still creating my mind, my consciousness now? It's affecting, but it's not contaminating. So there's a basic frequency, and it actually has to come to the device along with the frequency from the good stuff, and the device basically calibrates the two different frequencies into your current frequency. But how do I know it's not the bad stuff getting back into my... It's just a frequency. The content is not coming into your head. It's just the device in your head. It's just reading the frequencies from the two vessels. Is that why I feel a little bit like myself, but not totally like myself? Yes, it is, Thomas. When do I get my brain back? Well, Cameron and I need to do a little work. On the bad stuff. We just need to sift through, see if there's any good stuff in there that we might have improperly left behind. And then we have to actually sift through the good stuff and see if there's any bad stuff in there, any contaminants. It's going to take a while. This is an experimental technology. Yes, it is. And it's very experimental. Leslie? Basford? No. You're still here. Yes, we're right in front of you. I know I could feel you, but I can't really tell if that's you. Okay, well, Thomas, what is it that you want? Was I in a really bad way when you removed my brain? Yes, you were. This is a lobotomy. Yes, Thomas, more or less, it is a lobotomy. But not so primitive. We didn't get in there with a scalpel and just scrape off parts of your brain. We essentially removed all the content and sifted through it so that we could separate the good from the bad, and we're just doing a quality assurance check. There will be a couple more of these before we are able to decide and assess exactly what we're going to do. Just decide what you're going to do? Yes, hopefully. Usually the case is such that the good stuff is good enough. We can just put it back in your brain without the bad stuff. Put it back in your head without the bad stuff. And then you can go forward and just function as a good individual. As a good individual. Yes. Was I not good before? You were experiencing a lot of difficulty, Thomas, and we were alerted by some physicians who cared for you, and they were concerned that you would not survive unless you were part of this experimental technology. So that's where myself and Leslie came into the picture, and of course we are affiliated with Russell and Cameron. Did I agree? Did I agree to this experimental technology? Did I consent? It's a great question. No, you are not of sound mind, so you did not consent to this. Why are you here? I'm sorry. Why am I here? Why am I here? Bassford? Me? Why are any of you here? We've already explained that to you, Thomas. What's the point? Well, the point was to put you out of your misery and yet still keep you alive. But I didn't consent. I have a device in my head. Otherwise, it's just an empty cranium. Well, it is a large device. It's more or less as large as your brain. And it's very powerful. It's not quite as powerful as your brain, or nearly as powerful as your brain, but it's getting the job done. You're alive. You're able to move around, and able to have a conversation with us, and that's really important. Well, why didn't you just kill me? Well, that was not an option. The physicians didn't want to do that. They had grown fond of you. And it's... that would be a kind of... well, not necessarily euthanasia, but very close, and that's archaic. Thomas, we have new options now. We gotta throw the bad stuff away. Gotta throw away my brain. Well, we don't... Actually, you know what? I'm gonna let... Russell or Cameron answer that. I'd be happy to do that. Thomas... the bad stuff is, there's no easy way to say this, but I'll just try. Cameron, you know how you could tell him this? It's hard to tell anybody this, Russell. It's not the truth that people want to hear. I think I can hear it, if you want to tell me. The bad stuff. Thomas, it's just got to go. The bad stuff has collected in you over time, like sediment. And it's an accumulation. It's accumulating over the years. And then it's difficult to describe, but it has its own density and has its own frequency, as we said, and it tends to just constantly emit this frequency that activates the bad stuff in other people. And then they start congregating, and it's just like very bad for society. And instead of taking more extreme precautions, we've decided to develop a technology that can essentially cyclotron or centrifuge your brain into good stuff and bad stuff. And we just have to run the tests to make sure that we're not throwing away any good stuff and none of the bad stuff is contaminated the good stuff. Experimental technology. It's a lobotomy. Lobotomy is an archaic term, Thomas. It's just, it has a lot of unpleasant connotations, of course. I mean, imagine if you had a bad lung, and we took one lung out. We took both lungs, and one was bad and one was good. before we got rid of the bad lung, we'd want to make sure that it's not completely, that there isn't any good stuff there that we can't salvage or take care of, or we just have to throw out the whole lung. And then when we're looking at the good lung, we have to make sure that there's no toxicity present. So it's the same with your brain. How many people have been using this experimental technology? Well, we're really working hard to clean up the human race, so tens of millions of people. Tens of millions of people have a device between their ears, and their brains are in 2 vats on their dining room table. That's a pretty accurate way of saying it, yes. Can I communicate with them? Well, if we did adjust a few parameters in the device, yes, you could. You could communicate with all of them. How do you get the device in my brain and then, or in my head? And how do you get my brain into those 2 vats? Yes, it's a great question. We use nanotech. And then nanotech essentially disassembles your brain, cell by cell by cell, neuron by neuron by neuron. And it collects in that part of your ear. And we just remove it. Your brain 1 piece at a time. And then when the nanotech is finished removing your brain, it basically has made a digital replica of your brain and self-assembles back in the space between your ears. That's why you have a general semblance of your former personality and can do things, generally speaking. There does seem to be a little awkwardness in everybody because it's not an exact replica. It couldn't be because the nanotech cannot 100% replicate the dynamic organism that is your brain, the dynamic interactivity. Yeah, it's just infinitely complex. So yeah, there's a little lag time there. There's a little distortion. There's a little bit of kind of aphasia, for lack of a better term. That's all part of it. It's just like a little bit of a jet lag. Is this what you're doing to heal the world of bad brains? But it has come to this point. How many people are you going to give this lobotomy to? Well, this bad brains is kind of spread like a virus. So, a lot of people. Tens of millions, you said. Yes, it's quite a problem, and we don't have the manpower quite yet to get the whole planet, but we're pretty much hoping that we can get every human being cleaned up so they only have a good brain. Everybody. Yes. What about you? Have all of you gone through this lobotomy? Yes, we have. We were part of the first crew of test subjects. So you can have faith in this experimental technology because, well, we survived and now we're helping the planet and just... It's not easy, Thomas. We have to go person by person. It's not like we can just flip a switch and everybody loses bad brains and just only has good brains. There's a process. Like I said, this is experimental, so it's quite clumsy. But the great news is that for every single person that we help and assist and walk through this process, they can now go do that with someone else. In just a little bit of time, you'll be doing this with others, just as I'm doing this with you now. And you'll have your technician crew, just like I do with Russell, Cameron. Maybe you'll have someone special come with you, like I do with my wife. How do you get the device out of my head? Well, when we have thoroughly assessed the good stuff and the bad stuff, and we are very clear which is which, then we're going to reverse the process. You will go unconscious as the nanobots leave your cranium through your ears, and they will bring your brain back in. They will bring it back in, neuron by neuron, and assemble it again, but without the bad stuff. I don't understand that. Well, the bad stuff is neural tissue. It's neural tissue, it's neurons. But the nanotech will replicate the bad stuff, the bad neurons, and then the energy from the good neurons will activate, animate the bad neurons. Well, the formerly bad neurons, they're good neurons now. Is it the neurons? Well, the neurons are the carrier of the negative energy, the bad energy, and so they were very damaged. They're no longer useful. Once you put them back in the brain, they're going to just do the same bad stuff that they once did. So, good stuff only, you know? I'm a little bit scared. I'm a little bit scared. How do you know what's the bad stuff? Who makes that determination? I would think that I needed to give consent. And that if I don't give consent, then that's bad stuff. Consent seems like good stuff. I feel very angry that I did not give consent. Oh, but I can't really feel the anger. I don't know why I said that. I can't really feel the anger. I feel the ghost of anger. Because this device in my head won't let me feel real anger. Yes, because, well, you would be getting angry about something that is actually good, and so that would be an error. And the device is not capable of that kind of error. How would it know? How would it know what's good to be angry about? It's just a device. Oh, a device in my head. I have a device in my head. Yes, well, anger is certainly an interesting emotion. Anger. Yes. Yes, it is. Passford. Have you and your crew and all those people decided that anger is good brain or bad brain? Well, just a little bit. We don't want to eliminate any emotion altogether from the system. Because the human system has those 4 basic emotions. 4 basic emotions. Yes. The easiest way to talk about them is to say mad, sad, glad, and fear. Mad, sad, glad, and fear. Well, yes. So we don't want too much anger. That would be bad brain. So we dial it down to the minimum amount so that we don't try to eradicate something that is actually naturally occurring, because the body will continue to generate mad, sad, glad, and fear. So we dial them back. Only the tiniest fraction of mad, only the tiniest fraction of sad, the tiniest fraction of glad, the tiniest fraction of fear. That's how you see that when none of those are overinflated, you don't get the bad stuff. You just stay with good brain. Can I ask you a question? Sure. Too much glad? Too much glad, yes. What's the problem with too much glad? Mania. Mania. And plus, when people get too happy, they're not very productive. They're just happy all the time. And we don't want that. We want a productive society. We've got a lot to accomplish. You don't want people to be too happy. Very happy societies are not productive societies, so this is part of the problem. This is what we're trying to help solve. This is what we are effectively solving, and what you will solve too. as soon as we finish the test and reassemble your brain, you'll have a better understanding of why too much of any of those emotions is a problem. But I didn't give my consent. Yes, consent is in some respects overrated when you're dealing with such an enormous global problem, right? If we have to solve a problem on a global scale and people don't give their consent, then we can't solve the problem. The problem is too many people have bad brains. They've just accumulated all this toxicity in their head over their lifetimes, and now we've developed a technology to assist them so that they can have clean brains. What if the device broke or broke down? I'm scared. Well, this is actually a question for either Russell or Cameron. Yeah. If the device broke down, sure enough, what happens is the nanotechnology would simply reassemble the broken parts, either through resources available inside your head or through supplementary resources that we would provide through the ear. So, all of you have good brains. Of course. Can't you tell? So you don't get ever very mad or very sad or very glad or very fearful, do you? No, that's just a feeding ground for all the negative energy that plagues this world. Would you say that emotions are the problem? In a way, we could say that, yes. We could. But really, if you take emotions out of the human being altogether, then you have more problems. And you've actually compounded the difficulty. So you're not really solving problems, you're just creating deeper ones. We're not designed to be without emotions. But we can dial them down to about a level 1 or a 0.5. And then you'll find that we have a much more productive society, a higher functioning society. And though people aren't necessarily happy, happiness is not the objective. A well-functioning society is the objective. And for that, we take these measures. But I was thinking that it was more like different than that. Different than that? What were you thinking? I was thinking that you were saying there's some malevolent forces or spirits or demons that were taking over the brains of people, and you had to clean their brains. No, it's not quite that. It's this independence, this autonomy. It started off as such a great idea, this notion of freedom. But what we discovered over time is that An overemphasis on autonomy and agency and independence and freedom created so many narcissists that it was like a plague upon the land. Narcissism everywhere. So this great virtue of independence and freedom and autonomy and agency, when taken to an extreme, created a planet full of misery. Misery. A very unproductive planet. Miserable people cannot do work. They stay deeply despondent and useless. So you have to do what needs to be done. Remove the brain. Clean out the bad stuff. Keep the good stuff. And the good stuff is whatever facilitates productivity. Makes complete sense. People will talk you out of it. They'll say that, oh, it's okay to be lazy. It's okay not to do anything. It's just okay to have fun. You don't have to be stressed out and feel the pressure. And what happens is that the society, the civilization decays because of freedom, independence, autonomy, agency. Yes, you're free to be lazy, free to do nothing. We can't let that happen. Some of us saw the writing on the wall. And those of us who saw the writing on the wall developed the technology to put an end to it all. Thomas, we're not alone. We're not alone in this universe. If we don't clean up our act, there will be a hostile takeover of our species. We must save ourselves by vacuuming our brains so that we only have good stuff between our ears, Thomas. Global lobotomies for the sake of humanity, yes. And as crazy as that sounds, if we do not succeed in our mission, there will be no more humanity as we know it. We will be slaves, miserable slaves, and we will have productivity, but only as the servants of other species. It's not easy. It's not easy to contemplate the prospect of having your brain in two vessels on your dining room table. But if it's down, we're losing humanity altogether to an invasive species just knocking on our door, waiting for us to crumble under our own ineptitude. Tough decisions must be made. And you will understand, Thomas, when we're done sifting through your brain. I don't even know if you're good. I can't tell. I don't have the capacity to even tell whether you're good or you're just full of shit and you're doing something to my brain. I did not consent to this Hey, Thomas. Hey. It's Cameron. There's no way you could have consented to this. None of us could. We don't understand the magnitude of the problem. We don't understand how bad our brains are. We don't understand the threat all around us. These other civilizations and species just waiting to pounce. We have a very narrow time window to clean up humanity. At some point, we can't be diplomatic. People want so much due process and so much consent, permission. These other species are coming and they're here at our doorstep now. So we either clean up our brain or we perish. So as much as I sympathize with your concern about the non-consensual nature of this operation, if we wait to get consent, we'll die. Because people won't believe us. People won't believe us. I hardly believe myself when I speak about these things. What are you gonna do with the bad stuff? My bad brains? That's a good question. I'm gonna let Russell explain. We're gonna weaponize it. It's the simplest way to say it. We're gonna weaponize your bad stuff. That's what we do with all the bad brains. We're gonna use your bad brains against our enemies. We're going to infect their brains with yours, so that they will leave us the fuck alone. Your brain will be a unique payload, a unique ammunition. The bad brain. You will decimate thousands, if not millions, of hostile alien species with the toxicity of your bad brains. We will destabilize their civilization so their civilization can no longer predate on ours. How do you feel about that? You're stopping the predators, Thomas. You should be proud that your bad brain is being put to such good use. And yes, this is an experimental technology. We don't have the time to iron out all the kinks. If you could see what we see, what's filling the sky above our heads, you'd realize that we don't have time. We don't get consent. There's no ironing out the kinks when these oppressors are staring down from the heavens, breathing down your neck. It's just unreasonable to suppose that we could do anything than what we're doing. I, for one, take a peculiar interest, if I may say, in the architecture of your bad stuff. Molecular infrastructure of your bad brains. Everybody's got something a little bit different, which is a great advantage to us in our war, because the enemy is always caught off guard if our bad brains are always different. We will be able to inject it into their civilization, and it will take over like a virus, you see. So be happy. It's not too much longer. I want to know more about the bad brain stuff. But I sense reluctance that you don't want to answer my questions truthfully. Well, there is a little bit that we do have to keep confidential, but we are happy to answer those questions which we are authorized to answer. Why is it confidential when it comes to my brain and what you're doing with it? And what constitutes the good and the bad? As soon as we tell you that, Thomas, that could get into the hands of the enemy. How do I know that you're not the enemy? What kind of question is that, Thomas? How will I ever know if I get my brains back? Well, Thomas, you're not getting the bad brains back. You're only getting the good brains. We went over this. Are you having a hard time understanding what I'm saying? I'm just having a hard time understanding why the brains in the left-hand jar are bad and the brains in the right-hand jar are good. It really boils down to productivity, Thomas. The brains in the left hand are not productive, and the brains in the right hand are. And so we're going to take the left jar, weaponize it, and use it to destroy our enemies. You won't miss that. And the nanotech will simply replicate the neural structure of the neurons that we have jettisoned and weaponized. You won't know the difference. You'll just feel lighter, better. And you'll know that you underwent the process, but you won't really have much recollection of what was done, even of this conversation. This conversation is really being recorded by a device in your head, and is happening by means of the device in your head. There will be a faint echo of our interaction when your brains are put back in your skull. How will I know? How will I know that you put my good brains back in my skull? How will I know whether I just have this device in my head the rest of my life? Oh, well, you'll feel better. You'll feel better. I'll be unconscious. I'll be unconscious for the process, and then I'll just wake up and I'll feel better, and I'll just know that my brain is back in my skull. Well, yes, there will be no more brain in that vessel, nor in the other vessel. The brains will be gone. You could just take my brains and replace my brains with a device, and I would never know the difference. If we were that malicious, Thomas, why would we even be having this conversation? This conversation is meant to orient you, answer your questions, and make you comfortable with the process. But you didn't even get my consent. And now you're pretending like you care, and then you're telling me that I won't even remember the process of getting my good brains back. Now I'm wondering if my brains are in those two vases at all. Of course they're there. I want to see them. I want to see my brains. I want you to open up whoever, I don't care, Russell, Cameron, whoever. Open up those two jars. Show me my brains. Now, please. Sorry, we can't do that for you, Thomas. We risk contamination with the air. Exposure of your brains to the air in the room could actually contaminate them, and we don't want to do that, so they need to stay completely sealed. Just trust us on this. I really want to see what my brains look like. I want to see what bad brains look like, and I want to see what good brains look like. I want to see if I can tell the difference between the two, and if I can't tell the difference between the two, I want them back in my head. Well, that's not possible because we are trying to stop a global problem here. We put those two vessels on the table just to make it easier for you, so that you can see that your brains are in good hands. Yes, that's what we did. We want you to understand that your brains are in good, trustworthy hands. And then when we've finished our work here, your good brain will be put back in, and your bad brain will be used for great purposes. Save the planet purposes, okay, Thomas? Leslie, I don't know if I can trust you or not, but tell me the truth. I will do my best, Thomas. What would you like to know? Are my brains in those two vessels there? Honestly, I don't know the answer to that because I haven't looked. I haven't taken off the lid because we're not authorized to do that because of the contamination possibility. But I trust Russell and Cameron. If they say your brains are there, they're there. Is there any way I can test whether there's actually a device in my head right now? So that I can just know that and I don't have to take that for granted, or I just don't have to just assume that it's there simply because you tell me that it's there. Is there a way to verify that I'm using a device to think right now? Well, ideally, Thomas, there'd be no way for you to tell. That's when it's doing its job. Yeah, but I was experiencing so much fragmentation and jet lag, for lack of a better word, and just blanking out and aphasia and just slowing down. I still feel it now, just a fog, a fatigue, a slow-mindedness. Is that my brain or is that the device? Well, that I can tell you, it's the device. So it takes a while to completely sync up. You just have to trust the process, okay, Thomas? We're here to help. You won't even show me my brains. I don't know if they're even there. What do you want from me? We want you to become one of us, Thomas. Who are you? Well, we are crusaders. We're on a crusade to save the planet from itself, from others who would overrun it, overtake it, who would claim it for themselves. But is the planet really ours? Basford, is this planet really ours? Yes, it's ours, and we must defend it, or we will be without a hope. So you've got to get it into your brain that you're doing the right thing. How do I get it into my brain if my brain is over there, in that jar? Yes, perfect question. It's just a matter of speech. Just a matter of speech. Just a matter of speech. I don't know if I trust you, Crusaders. I have no evidence of anything. No hostile species. No bad brains, no device in my head. I just know that you're telling me something and I feel weird and I don't know how to make sense of it, and I just wonder if I've been drugged or I'm in a dream. And all I want to do is look into those two jars. And see my brains. Can I please see my brains?